Welcome to the first episode of AI for HR in under 90 seconds of 2025. I want to open this series by talking a little bit more about why is AI so hot in the HR industry right now and what can we possibly look forward to and expect this year. So first and foremost, I think three things that are driving the AI popularity are still consistent. Number one, there is a relentless desire for productivity and pursuit for efficiency that we're seeing across many different companies and industries right now. Second, the desire of having deeply data-driven insights and actions across all companies are still there. And AI is one of the more viable ways of turning mountains of data into insights. And the third thing I think is really the fact that your job seekers as well as your workforce are so accustomed to the consumer grade AI driven experience, the expedited part of it, as well as the personalized experiences, that they're kind of starting to expect that in their workplace as well. So, is it the right time for your organization to pursue AI? I think that really depends on what it is that you're trying to solve for. A couple of things to keep in mind is number one, there has never been a time where AI solutions are more affordable and scalable than they are today. So that could be a factor. The second thing is there's a bit of a bandwagon element to all of this, in that if your competitors are doing it, you might want to consider a little bit. And last but not least, I think AI is one of the only tools in the market today that can genuinely pull HR out of the administration nightmare and the repetitive tasks that the industry has been wanting to get out of for a very, very long time. Welcome to this week's episode of AI for HR in under 90 seconds. A lot of times when HR professionals talk about the application and use cases for AI in their organizations, we hear a lot about it helped us automate X and this process is so much faster now, or it's helping us do task Y so we don't have to touch it anymore. And in our minds, automation and AI became associated. But are they really the same thing? Let's get into it. So think of automation as a set of if and then conditions that are basically rules for your system to follow. And AI is something that adapts and learns and modulates over time so that you can become more proactive and predictive about certain outcomes in the organization. Using PTO or time off as an example, automation would be helping you identify things like, hey, if a statutory holiday falls on a Sunday, then let's make sure we give everyone the Monday off and let's make sure we pass that data onto our payroll systems. And it just rinses and repeats itself over and over again. Whereas AI can help you proactively predict burnout risks in the organization, possibly recommend some time off options to your workforce to prevent burnout overall, in addition to identifying when their statutory holiday time off is. So all to say is, do automation rely on AI to be more efficient? Yes, absolutely. But not all AI use cases are automation, and not all automation use cases are AI based. Welcome to part 11 of AI for HR in under 90 seconds. This week's recording is inspired by an article that Martin Redstone has written, where he talks about why AI agents that you think are agents aren't real agents, if you will. So I'm going to link the article down below because I've only got 90 seconds here, but I definitely think you should check it out as well as follow him. It's really, really good content. The reason why I bring this up is I need everyone to repeat after me for a moment. Chatbots are not agents. Chatbots are not agents, okay? Chatbots can be agent-like or agentic in certain ways, but they're definitely not agents from a pure technology sense. And I think just as the words AI were used very frequently 2 years ago when pitching or talking about HR technology, we're now seeing agentic AI being talked about quite a bit in the marketplace as well, especially in a lot of branding content that's out there. Is HR technology doing a phenomenal job in incorporating AI? Yes, absolutely. Is it truly agentic in its pure sense? Not necessarily. But here's the thing. As a buyer and as a consumer of HR technology, you don't always need to be on the bleeding edge of it. So instead of buying into the marketing language or language that's easier to sell to your stakeholders, think about your true needs and make your purchases based on what you're looking for and not the language itself or the marketing that you're looking at. So welcome to this week's episode of AI for HR in under 90 seconds, where I definitely have more content than I have time for. So let's get into it. Your newsreel is probably dominated with the latest breaking news out of the LLM world and the AI tech world. Now, what does that mean for you? Do you need to do anything differently immediately? No, don't panic. calm down. Your world is not about to erupt or change over the next couple of weeks. It will eventually, but just not immediately. Here is what you do need to keep in mind and watch out for in the world of HR and HR tech, though. Costs of AI will likely come down as people realize different ways of doing things and different ways of training models. Number two, you are probably going to enter into more build versus buy decisions because no code and low code tech in the AI space is now becoming more and more proliferated than it was even a couple months ago, late last year. Number three, security is going to be insanely nuanced because it's no longer, is your data secure or not secure? It's going to be contextual based. What kind of data do you want to secure? What data are you okay with sort of not being secure? Those type of things. So just be ready for a more nuanced data security conversation. Number four, data is a new currency in this world. So just keep that in mind as you build out your architecture and your data stack. And last but not least, you don't have to be a tech geek to try out the tools. So sign up for an account, come up with an email alias, and just try it out. Welcome to this week's episode of AI for HR in under 90 seconds. Originally, we were supposed to talk about the AI data wall phenomenon. However, we're going to pack that until next week because I do want to share another idea I came across today, weirdly in a completely non-AI related context, in talking about change management. Long and short of it, I was just on a webinar that was exploring the idea that past a certain phase in life or a certain age, in order for humans to adapt and accept new ideas, we effectively need to do a bit of a cleansing of the old ideas and structures that we've held on to in order to embrace new ideas and embrace change, essentially. Now, taking that into the context of AI, it pretty much works the same way. So for those of you who are looking to implement a tech solution or an AI solution in 2025, it might be time to start doing some spring cleaning of what you think the technology is going to help you with. Because I've definitely come across stories where someone's like, oh yeah, I have like 20,000, 30,000 pages in SharePoint. I'll just plop AI over it. It'll make sense of all that. Yeah, it doesn't happen that way. Unless you know your process well, unless something is incredibly well structured in how you do your work, it is really, really hard for AI to just come in and miraculously give you a solution at this point in time. Will we ever get there? Absolutely. Is it now? Probably not. Welcome to this week's episode of AI for HR in under 90 seconds, where we are going to talk about the AI data wall. So the concept of the AI data wall came around mid-2024 when researchers realized that the performance improvement between different releases of large language models from a variety of providers essentially reduced over time. And that has led them to stipulate that we're essentially running out of publicly available data to train LLMs with. Some have even gone as far as to say that by 2030, we are going to be out of publicly available data generally to train large language models with. Now, companies have done a few things to get around that. One of them is using synthetic data. Essentially, what they do is they get the AI to generate the data to then train the AI with. We can debate the merit of that in a different video. But the other thing that a lot of technology vendors are looking into is tapping into companies' privately held data. So what on earth does all of that mean for HR? I think a few things. Number one, with this availability of data issue, I think we're going to start to see more vendors and more solution providers coming out and saying, hey, we're going to allow you to customize the model with your own training data, which is, I think, really good news because that's a level of customization that we've been asking for, but we haven't gotten. The second thing I think is going to come about is really the fact that in order to provide your own training data, you are going to have to learn how to prep and clean your data for training. So that whole data architecture and cleanliness conversation is going to be back at the table all over again. And last but not least, all of the different tactics and ways of which you've come up with practically to overcome bias and prevent bias now needs to be digitally encoded in your training data set, as well as how you use your AI-enabled tools. Welcome to this week's episode of AI for HR in under 90 seconds, where I am genuinely convinced if we continue at this rate, we are going to be adding new lines of definitions to English words in dictionaries, courtesy of AI. So why am I saying this? Well, rewinding back to about 12 months ago, this time last year, I think one of the key words the entire industry was talking about is explainability, right? How do you know what an LLM is doing? How do you explain what AI tools are doing in the back end? Well, courtesy of the last 12 months of development, the new word, if you will, is now observability. So why have we gone from explainability to observability? Simple, because agentic AI and AI agents is now a thing. So in addition to being able to explain what's happening in a single LLM, you now need to observe what is happening in the interactions of multiple LLMs and multiple AI agents simultaneously. So what is observability? It's basically a word that is used to describe your ability to monitor, understand, and analyze a AI tool or AI agent's decision-making process, behavior, and performance, essentially, in an entire ecosystem in real time. And this basically allows your AI tools to be a lot more transparent, explainable, as well as accountable for the outputs and decisions that it's producing. Why is it important to HR? Well, a few different reasons. Number one, it's about trust. If you don't see it, if you don't understand it, you don't trust it, right? So therefore, observability is really critical in building trust between human and AI agents. Second, it's around operational efficiency. If you can see it, you also know if it is delivering the KPI as well as operational effectiveness that you're looking for at the end of the day. Last but not least, it's about proactive performance monitoring. It's really being able to understand things such as degradation, hallucination, or anything along those lines and see it in the system before those outputs are delivered to your workforce. Welcome to this week's episode of AI for HR in under 90 seconds, where I will assure you this one is going to be over 90 seconds, but I promise you it is going to be for valid reasons. So this whole thing started because someone asked me the question of what's the difference between GPT-4o and all of the previous versions, and what's the difference between the free versions of some of the AI tools you have and the paid versions of those tools. So of course I went diving down a rabbit hole once again, and I think amongst all of the different functional differences across the different models, one thing that is consistently coming up for me, and one thing I would recommend for everyone to look out for, is something that's called the knowledge cutoff date of the LLMs. So every single LLM has a knowledge cutoff date, and literally you can vet this by asking the tool itself what its knowledge cutoff date is. So you can see the GPT one up there, you can see the Claude one up there, as well as the one for Perplexity. I just picked the three that I use the most to kind of check out the knowledge cutoff dates. So why is this important? A couple different reasons. Number one, think of knowledge cutoff date as something to the effect of a LLM's SHRM certification. So let's say if a knowledge cutoff date is June of 2024, that language model has been trained with all of the external data up until June of 2024. Now, certain tools like ChatGPT can search the internet for additional information that has happened since June 2024, but unless you ask for it to retain that information, it doesn't come up in your future chat. It basically just pulls it from the search, gives it to you, and then forgets about it in a way. It's not part of its core training or the core tool set. Something like Claude, for example, as you'll see in the explanation previously, the training is up to a certain date. So unless it's with specific information that has been conditioned into after that date, it doesn't pull up that type of information. So one, it's good to know because I think it really does impact the tool set that you want to use, as well as how up to date you want your tool set to be. The second thing that I think is really important is that when you're buying AI tools, you really need to ask your vendors the question, what is the knowledge cutoff date of the LLM that you're using, essentially? Because depending on how much they have spent for development, they may be using the latest LLM or they may be using an older version. However, the older version will impact your output and performance because, again, think about it. There are certain things that have happened in the timeline of human history since 2023 or 2024 that's not being accounted for in how your base LLM in your HR tool is performing or what it's thinking about without intervention.